Master. So happy to be here again, this great conference, and for the final talk of these 2 days. It will be captured. What would Captain Obvious say about indie game development? First, I will tell you what is not my talk about. So usually we can find some advice like make good games. So we can say thank you, Captain Obvious, no problem. So I want to look a bit deeper, and as the Captain Obvious avatar, I would rather pick Captain Smollett from Treasure Island. So everyone who has childhood during 90s or 80s would recognize this character. And there was a fun episode when the Captain Smollett spotters the gun. They are loading the gun. So why? They're going to shoot. And after that, he gives a command, double quick. So I built my presentation in this way. We spot something in successful indie games, and then I understand why do the developers do this, and how can we use the same technique. And speaking about obvious things, I must say that sometimes things that seem to be obvious are very useful too. This is the message in elevator. It states, you are in elevator. Obviously, I'm in the elevator. But if we look more attentively, we'll see that you are in elevator number 6. So this message obvious, but it gives useful information because we know what to say to rescue us if we got stuck. So why am I talking about this? I have experience of game reviewing for FGL community and Enhance and judging indie game contests. So I've made around 2,000 reviews of games. I released my own game starting from web now to mobile. And also I had experience from jam games creation and their post-jam life. So let's start. This game, Orbit, one of my favorite games where you just launch planets around the center of gravity and you have to make the specified number of rotation. Idea. The idea of this game is really simple. Why? To make it quicker and release. So this is really essential for indies, especially for beginner indies, to make the first game based on a really simple idea and to know that the game is completed when it reflects the idea, and to stop making it and start releasing. That's how the developers of Orbit game did, and they now have more than 20 million of installs, and they were spotted by Google Indie Contests. And many other developers follow this obvious strategy. For example, a game published by FGL, it's Click and Mine Idle Tycoon. So you just, idea is you just tap, and gain money and hire miners and go to another cycle. Another very simple idea is a really successful game by Megabyte, a member of Russian-speaking game developing community. You see the idea from the picture. The game is called Handless Millionaire. You just pick your hand through the guillotine and want to get money before the hand is cut. The game got really high ratings on Play Market and more than 2 million of installs. This game by George Zarqua, perhaps it reflects the first game idea that child encounters, putting round objects through round holes and pyramids through triangular holes. So start focusing on simple idea and complete, which will let you make a completed game. So then, this is the screenshot from Dolly the Sheep, a game which was top on web portals in 2014. And you see very complex levels, many elements. So game elements. This game has, but game elements and concepts are in this game are introduced level by level. So this is not level 1, but level 10 or something which has teleports, belts, some fruits, balloons, and so on. So why does the developer introduces game concepts gradually? It's obviously to avoid overwhelming the player with information and keep the explorer feeling of the player. So when your idea is not so simple, you should introduce various concepts gradually to let the player get accustomed to the gameplay concepts. So right now there is a whole genre or subgenre of games called unfolding games. When you start, especially it's in the idle genre, but also in many more, when you start with a very simple action, like this game is by Berserk Studio, it's called Zombie Idol. And then you get more and more control of how you control the game, how you control the game flow, the characters, and your progression. So, but all these concepts are introduced gradually, step by step, when the player is ready to understand them. Then, next observation. Here we have a successful series transmorphed by Flash Rush Games or Matt Poffer's now, Matt Puffer Studio, and this is a series. This developer released their games in series. Why? Obviously, to use the success of the previous part and to drive more players' attention to the next part. So if you reach success with your game, don't hesitate to release part 2, part 3 by adding those concepts which you postponed or adding those concepts which players asked you. So this way, your development will fuel the development of the next stage and you will get players engaged. Okay, now let's look at the game Bitcoin Miner. This game is based on hype. So the game implements current hype theme. So why? Obviously, to get extra attention and download boosts. So the game about Bitcoins is now about 1 million of installs, and it was also highlighted by Apple Deal as one of the top earning game. There are many other examples from our FGL community when developers made games around hype. A very successful was game by Filipino developers E7 Studio. This was game about Duterte, the president candidate at that time. And this guy was very funny, was known for very funny media appearance. And so they succeeded by making a game about him and reached 20 million of installs. But what I must say that basing a game only on hype is not all what you need for game success. Because at that time, about 20 games about Duterte were in the making and were released, but only one got more than 1,000 installs and exactly 20 million of installs. So all the other elements like gameplay, art work together, but using hype is a very useful technique. But I must warn you that if you are making a game about hyped theme, don't wait to release it. So this game, Paper Knight, was made in 2015. It was featuring the guy who participated in Ice Bucket Challenge. It got high ratings on Game Jam Kanobo Awards from DevGam. But this game is still in beta. And if they now finally move the game to release and say it's 2018 and we've released a game about Ice Bucket Challenge, so they kind of lower the hype. So if you're making a game about hype, don't wait too much, release it before the hype is still a hype. So another game and another observation is a game about a burglar who wanders the neighborhood and escapes from policemen. And observation is about collision boxes. In this game, collision box of the policeman is a bit smaller than the policeman's graphics. Why? To give the player a feeling of near-miss situation. And I've just escaped the police. I've just escaped the enemy. This is great feeling for the player to boost happiness hormones and to continue playing. So in this game, you can just evade your enemy just by tiny pixels, and you will see, wow, I'm great at this game. I will play more. So firstly, documented this feature was by Kennabolt developer. It was a game of 2003. And in this game, you were running the roofs and jumping. And in this game, the physical body of the roof was just 5 pixels more than the roof visuals. So if the player was late by a fraction of seconds, the player still could survive and jump from one roof to another. And this game feeling, wow, I'm great at this game, I will play more. So next game was made during Global Game Jam Minsk 2015, and it's called City of Anarchy, and it looks like it was drawn by a pen. So everything in this game looks like it was drawn by a pen. Why? Because if you keep the same visual style for all elements, even the programmer's art looks nice. So if you are not good at art, try to think of some simple concept which would describe all the art elements in your game. Like here, everything is drawn with pen. And this is a great success of Gem game. The first version was made within 48 hours, but then the developer took 1 year to complete it and released first version on Steam, then second version also on Steam, and crossed more than 100,000 purchases. Another example, Orbit game. All the game elements are the same style. Anti-Yoi strategy, great mobile strategy, follow the same advice. And as I give advice to the developers, I use them for my games as well. So this is how new art from my steampunk idle spinner looks like. I tried to use the concept everything consists of polygons. So this is how I made new art, being a programmer, not an artist. So next, speaking about art. This is a game, Swarm Sim, which has about 20 million of plays as web version, and now mobile version is released. So no art. This game has no art at all. It's a spreadsheet. Why? To let the player's fantasy work as graphic card. In this game, you just see numbers, but these numbers are explained like numbers of drones, of some kind of zerglings, obviously not the zerglings because of copyright infringement, but the creatures like this. And this approach worked really well. It works well for idle games. It also works well for text adventures, and the text adventures being one of the oldest genres of the game. They still exist, and making a game without an art is a possible solution to let the player fantasy work for you. So speaking about art, let's go to sound. So this is my game which we made together with George Zarqua. It's called Alien Anarchy, and I'm particularly proud for the shots of this game, in this game, because when you shoot weapons, every shot sounds a bit differently. So this adds audio variety to the player. So instead of repeating one sound sample, I did the following. I recall that if we have musical notes, then the frequency between the second semitones is 12th root of 2. So I picked one sound sample and added a Doppler effect with this coefficient and created about 5 to 10 sound samples, and then started playing one at random. And the players and reviewers liked this sound variability. So another example about a game art is from my game. Sometimes it's about mechanisms, cogwheels, and sometimes a gremlin appears and you have to catch the gremlin. So gremlin is very badly drawn, I admit it, even from my point of view. So the developer, me, didn't polish this game object. Why? Because it was solving its task in its current state. So still, I added this badly drawn gremlin. The player started hunting him and calling ads to get more reward. So even this badly drawn gremlin was solving my task to add monetization. So I didn't add more effort to enhance his art. I spent my human hours to other tasks. So this is, let's speak about monetization. This is how developers of Zombiidle earn money. They provide rewards for watching videos. So why it's essential to start monetize the game? To get the payoff of the time and human hours and efforts invested already in the game. So when you start seeing the money coming from the beta of your game, either it's early access on Steam or beta on Play Market, you will get extra motivation and extra efforts to complete the game and finally launch it. From ads to analytics. So the developers gather analytics, how the players behave. Why? So obviously to analyze it. This is very essential, not only to gather the data, but also to look at the data and spend at least 1 or 2 hours a week looking how the players play your game. Why do they solve some levels? When do they stop playing? How they evolve? I admit quite often I don't have time to look at my own analytics properly, but this is worth doing really to provide the better next version, the better update of your game. So about working with players. So this is how my responses to my games usually look like. Comments. I and that many developers answer every comments. Why? To show the player that their opinion matters and that I am interested to make the game better with their help. So answering every player comments really engages the player into the game, and they will be happy to give you higher ratings. They will be happy to look at your next releases. And quite a number of players admitted that we like the developer who answers my comments. So don't leave comments unanswered. And speaking about answering comments, I will also share my own technique. When you receive comments in Google Play in different languages, I just Google how thank you sounds in that language. I put it in translation, then I put my usual other answer to other points in English. But at least I show the player I care that the players from different countries look at my game and share comments. Okay, let's look at this developer, Berserk Studio, or Luck and Friends, at Twitch. So this developer streams the development process. So he just makes the game and streams how the game is made. So why? To use the development hours also to promote the game. So this appeared to be a great tool to get the community engaged when they see actually how new features are integrated. If the developer has no ability to stream regularly, you can use my approach. I screencasted the development of my game, and then I published speed video like 1:60 coefficient to YouTube to show how the game was made. And thus you spend 1 hour to making your game, and you get 2 hours, one making a game, one promoting it. Facebook group. If I would give only one advice during my lecture, that would be this: make a Facebook group for your game. This appeared to be really essential for the game's success, and this needs very little hours to support and to create, but it will give you great reward in return. So why? To create a community which will support all the future games and the current one. So in this game, you can run a polls on the upcoming game features. The players who come with some interesting suggestions will see what you will do in the first and what you will do next, and they can vote on their comments as well. They can share how they play your game. So Facebook group is really essential for indie game now. Okay, besides about promoting your game, well, this is maybe the most obvious. Press kit. The teams prepare press kit. Why? To quickly tell all the interesting parties about the game. So sit down at your computer and spend 1 or 2 hours to get art, icon, text, video, and then you will use all this data everywhere, submitting to contests, submitting to expos, submitting to journalists. So spend 1 or 2 hours once, and this will be paid off every time. Okay, now about engaging more players. So result share. This is the game Adventure Capitalist, and when you proceed from one level to another, when you prestige, the game asks you to share the results. So the player can share results in social networks. Why? Obviously, this way, the player will be your free promoter. So it's also a very easy task which you can do, but this way you will get an army of free promoters of your game. So the players will share the info of your game in their timeline in Facebook, in Twitter, etc. The game about knives, perhaps you recognize it. Its success story started last year at White Knights. It's Flipping Knife, game by great Beresnev Studio. What we can spot from their experience, they asked to make Let's Play video, not the gaming YouTube channels, but YouTube channels of the knives. Why? To reach the players who are interested in game setting. So this is also very useful, obvious observation. When you're making a game about something, you should reach the communities which are built about that something, about what your game you're making. So for me, when I promoted my steampunk game, I reached steampunk communities. When I promoted my turn-based strategy game, I reached historical forums. I reached board game forums. So not only gamers, but people who are interested in strategy in history. So, and we are all at the conference, at Great White Knights Conference. So the people go to conference and listen to good practices in game development. Why? To use them in own games. And it's very essential because often we go to conference, we listen, okay, then everyday tasks start, and we just forget to do that, to implement those advice which we listened at the conference. So just look through videos, through talks you listened, through your notes, and implement them in your game. Don't hesitate to do this. So I wish you good luck with your releases. I'm ready to answer your questions. And we'll get our swag and my video reviews of your games when you send me. So
Thank you very much, Alexey.